while this has been a very positive chat, we do need to talk about something not as positive and very, very infuriating.
Oh.
For a minute there, we were seeing the highest grossing film record of all time get crushed every new film that came out.
Mm.
I think that is not going to happen again for a long time because I think straight to streaming has killed cinema. I think people knowing within a month or 2 months the latest film from the cinema is going to be on a streaming service they already pay for has made a lot of people go, I'm not going to the cinema anymore. Once upon a time, we would have to book our tickets to go watch an MCU film at a midnight showing the second they were available, otherwise, we wouldn't get tickets. Now, I'm going to one of the most anticipated films of the year, who's setting records for the best opening days and the best opening weekends, and there's empty seats.
Yeah, no, this is definitely something I've noticed as we've been doing this podcast and I've started going to cinema more. I end up going later into the first of the opening week, just because of what I'm like. And I often go for later night showings because I find them quieter and I do prefer a quieter cinema. But the amount of times where, like, we're only halfway through the first week of the film being out, I go to a later night showing and it's like just me, or like there are maybe at most 5 to 10 other people in there, is wild,
Yeah.
especially for like an MCU film. And I've noticed that there's so many films that the cinemas sometimes don't even run for a second week anymore. Like some films are in the cinema for a week, and if they really don't do well, then that's it. They don't keep,
Yeah.
or the second week is like heavily reduced times. And it's like wild to think that when some films used to be in like top of the like order, like would have every time slot available for like 2 3 weeks in the cinema, whereas
Yeah.
now, like you say, going straight to streaming. Look at Marvel, right? they the pattern is, everyone knows this now, is like, oh, there's a new Marvel film coming out, don't worry, the last one will be on a streaming service before then, because they want you to be able to watch that before watching the next one.
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp's been on Disney Plus for like a month now.
Yeah, it came out, it pretty much is a month after the film's out, it comes to Disney Plus,
Yeah.
which is like, what, like, why?
Yeah.
Unless you want the cinema experience, just you can just wait.
Yeah, and like I'm a sucker for the cinema. I love the cinema. I love getting my big drink. I love getting my big popcorn. I love sitting there, and I enjoy the cinema experience.
Mm,
So I don't think I'm ever going to stop going. But I think the cost of living crisis,
mm.
meaning people can't go to the cinema as much, which is obviously a very different thing, as well as the speed at which it goes to a streaming service. Like one, I remember once upon a time, and this makes me sound old as fuck, and I'm not. That after a film was in the started in the cinema, if it was available on DVD 6 months later, that was quick.
Yes. Yeah, I used to like, you pretty much would only get, movies would come out on DVDs generally around November because they would get them in for Christmas.
Yeah,
And it was like easily 6 months, if not longer. And I remember, if I missed something in the cinema, looking up and it's like, oh, I've got to wait like 7 months for it to come to DVD before I can watch it. Then
but
when they
you
started,
go.
yeah, and then it's like, but then they started adding in digital. So you're like, okay, well, it comes out on like digital a month before it comes out on actual physical. And then streaming's just, because the likes of like Disney, they own the film and they own the streaming site. They have full control of being like, yeah, we'll just put it straight on here. And it's like,
Craziness.
I get,
Once upon a time, a film would have been in cinema for 3 months. You'd have been
mm,
able to go watch that film in cinema for 3 months, and if you didn't watch it in that 3 months, you would be waiting between 3 and 6 months before it was available on DVD.
I only think this changes if we end up in a situation where, like, say Disney bought, like, either bought out a cinema chain or started their own cinema chain by buying up cinemas and theaters. and they would then they would consider like, oh, we can make money off like more directly off these cinemas. Oh, it's going to come to a Disney theater within a month where we're going to show it, or like it's in Disney theaters for longer. Then it comes to Disney Plus because they're getting
Yeah.
more of the revenue. Unless like these streaming sites start like transitioning into like the theater business, I don't see this changing anymore. Like this is just the
No,
way it's going to be,
I
unfortunately.
only see it getting worse.
Yeah, I
Because,
think.
like you said, right now they have to cut their revenue with the cinemas. Whereas if everyone just buys a month of Disney Plus, they get all of that money. And
Mm,
they also bank on they'll have a number that, oh, for every 100,000 people that just buy for 1 month, 30% of them end up just holding on to it for ages. I mean, that's
I
how gyms have operated for years. They'd launch their New Year discount
yeah,
so that everyone would sign up. And then, like I said, it's a joke that's been told in every sitcom since the dawn of time. I don't want to go to the gym anymore, but it's really difficult to cancel, so you end up just paying for it month on month on month when you never go.
yeah.
That's what Disney Plus is trying to do. They're trying to go, oh, they've just put all the new Ant-Man film on Disney Plus. I'll pay for Disney Plus for a month to watch it,
Well,
and then
yeah.
you don't get rid of it.
Do you know what? It like in a way, even smarter from Disney and like for them is the fact that like they've been putting out so many Marvel films. It's like, say you go, like, you pay for it for Ant Man, and then you're 2 months down, you're like, oh, I've not been watching Disney Plus, I should cancel it. And you start to think about canceling it, and then, like, oh, the newest MCU films come out, and it's come to Disney Plus at the end of the month. You're like, oh, well, I'll keep it for when that comes out. And they keep, like, whenever you might start to think about, I don't need Disney Plus, they're like, oh, yeah, the next thing's coming to Disney Plus now and it's like they keep just drip feeding them back in to keep you wanting it,
Yeah.
which I guess is very smart marketing from them, and it makes total sense. Like they're just trying to make the money, but unfortunately, I think the cinema industry, there's so many ways that these labels and actual production studios own the streaming services, so they're going to make more money that way. Like
Well, I mean, if you even look at Avatar: The Way of the Water, which was supposed to be the biggest film of the decade because of look how big the first one was. 6 months later, and it's on Disney Plus.
they did milk it at the cinema though.
Yeah, no, but you know what I mean? That's supposed to be
Mm,
like the top one. That's the one that would normally be in the cinema for like 3 or 4 months. And then after that run, you've got to wait another 6 to 10 months before you can get a DVD of it. And now it's like, what? It did like 2.5 months in the cinema and 6 months from when it first came out. So, like 3 months after it finished in the cinema, you can watch it on your streaming service. That's a big change.
and do you
And
know
it's
what?
happened in what, 10 years?
It's purely they don't want that gap in potential money.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't going to change. I think unless these streaming services start getting into the cinema business because they want to keep that cinematic experience alive, which I do think it will. Like cinemas won't go anywhere because there is enough of a demand of like things need to be watched in a cinematic way. Like Oppenheimer, like the everything seen on it is people saying you need to watch this on like an IMAX or some like and actually really experience how it was supposed to be viewed. And there's enough films that come out that like require that. But I do think nothing's going to change on the streaming side of things. And if anything, you're going to start to see more films just skip cinema that don't need that cinematic experience,
Really
which
scary
is,
times.
yeah, wild times. Wild times indeed.